My family paid my coach $3K to stop me from running a marathon. I found their contract in his office. I confronted them after winning the race. Their faces were priceless. So picture this. I'm chilling at my coach Mike's gym after what I thought was gonna be another solid training session. Dude had been acting mad weird lately, constantly throwing shade at my marathon goals like I was some weekend warrior trying to run a 5K in flip-flops. But whatever, right? I figured he was just being extra cautious since this was gonna be my first 26.2. I'd been grinding for months. No cap. Every morning at 5 a.m., lacing up my Nike Pegasus and hitting the pavement while most people were still dreaming about their morning Starbucks. My legs were getting stronger, my times were dropping, and honestly, I was feeling pretty solid about the whole thing. But Mike kept throwing these curveballs at me. Maybe we should reconsider, he'd say, or the injury risk is pretty high for first-timers. Bro, I'm 25, not 85. I've been running since high school track, and sure, I took a break during college when I was living off pizza and Red Bull, but I wasn't exactly a couch potato. Anyway, so I'm grabbing my water bottle from his office after our session, and Mike steps out to take a call. His desk is covered in the usual chaos: protein powder samples, client files, and this one folder that's just sitting there wide open. Now, I'm not usually the type to go snooping through people's stuff, but something caught my eye. It was a wow contract with my parents' names on it. My heart started doing this weird thing where it felt like it was trying to escape through my throat. I glanced at the door, heard Mike still chatting outside, and figured I had maybe 30 seconds to see what this was about. What I found made my blood run colder than a Bud Light left in a snowbank. It was a payment agreement. $3,000. My parents had literally paid my coach $3,000 to discourage participation in marathon events due to health and safety concerns. The date was from 2 months ago, right around when Mike started acting like I was made of glass. Quickly snapped a photo with my phone, my hands shaking like I'd just chugged 5 energy drinks. This wasn't just betrayal. This was next-level manipulation that made reality TV drama look like a Disney movie. Update. Found something that's about to change everything. Should I confront them directly or gather more evidence first? This is eating me alive. Mike walked back in, and I had to play it cool like nothing happened. But inside, I was a mess. Every concerned comment from my parents over the past few months suddenly made perfect sense. How they kept suggesting I should focus on more realistic goals or maybe try yoga instead. How my sister would roll her eyes whenever I mentioned my training schedule. See, here's the thing about my family. They've always been about appearances and safe choices. My sister went to law school, got married to some finance guy, and bought a house in the suburbs with a white picket fence. She's the golden child who checks all the boxes. Meanwhile, I'm the one who dropped out of pre-med to pursue a career in graphic design, lives in a studio apartment, and apparently thinks running 26.2 miles sounds like a good time. They never said it outright, but I could feel their disappointment. Every family dinner was like walking through a minefield of passive-aggressive comments about my unconventional choices. But this was beyond anything I could have imagined. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the photo on my phone, reading the contract over and over. The language was so cold and businesslike, talking about me like I was some kind of problem that needed to be solved. Subject demonstrates concerning obsession with high-risk athletic activities. Subject, not their daughter. Subject. I started thinking about all the times they'd undermined my confidence, how they'd praise my sister for running a charity 5K while dismissing my half marathons as just a hobby, how they'd change the subject whenever I talked about my training, how they'd never once asked about my goals or what this meant to me. The next day, I went back to Mike's gym with a plan. I needed more evidence, and I needed him to admit what he'd done. So I brought up the marathon again, acting like I was having second thoughts. You know what, Mike? Maybe you're right. This whole marathon thing is pretty intense. What made you realize it wasn't a good idea for me? He started going into this whole spiel about how he'd been doing research and talking to other coaches, blah, blah, blah. But I could see the relief in his eyes, like he thought his job was almost done. Who else have you been talking to about my training? I asked, keeping my voice casual. That's when he slipped up. Well, your parents are just concerned about you. They want what's best, and honestly, they raised some valid points about the risks. I turned on my phone's voice recorder app, hidden in my pocket. What kind of conversations have you been having with them? For the next 10 minutes, Mike basically confessed everything. How my parents approached him after I first mentioned the marathon, how they were worried I was going through some kind of phase and needed professional guidance to redirect my energy, how they thought paying for extra coaching sessions would be better than direct confrontation. Update. Just got the confession I needed. The betrayal runs deeper than I thought, but I've got a plan that's gonna blow their minds. Question is, am I crazy for what I'm about to do? I left that gym feeling like I'd been sucker punched and energized at the same time. These people had conspired behind my back, treating me like I was incapable of making my own decisions. But you know what? They just gave me the biggest motivation possible. I found a new coach, Sarah, who worked with serious runners and didn't treat me like I was made of porcelain. When I showed her my training logs and told her about my goals, leaving out the family drama, she was genuinely excited. Your base fitness is solid and your commitment is obvious. Let's get you ready to crush this thing. For the next 6 weeks, I trained harder than I'd ever trained for anything. Early morning runs before work, strength training during lunch breaks, long runs on weekends. I mapped out routes where my family wouldn't spot me, told my coworkers I was dealing with a project that required weird hours. Meanwhile, at family dinners, I played along. I'd mention how Mike was helping me reassess my goals and how maybe they were right about focusing on other things. My parents would exchange these satisfied looks, probably thinking their plan was working perfectly. My sister would nod approvingly, like I was finally coming to my senses. But I was also gathering evidence, screenshots of text messages between my parents discussing the situation, copies of the payment records I managed to access through Mike's online portal when he left his laptop open, voice recordings of conversations where they revealed just how little they thought of my capabilities. The Bali marathon was scheduled for a Sunday morning in downtown. I'd registered months ago before any of this drama started, and my whole family had originally planned to come watch and cheer me on. Now they thought I'd dropped out, so they'd made other plans. 3 days before the race, I played my final card. Hey Mom, I've been thinking about what you and Dad said about the marathon. You're probably right. It's too much too soon. Mike thinks so too. The relief on her face was actually painful to watch. Oh, honey, I'm so glad you're being sensible about this. There will be other races when you're more prepared. Actually, I was wondering if you and Dad might want to come watch some of the race anyway. Even if I'm not running, it might be fun to see all the athletes. They agreed, probably thinking it would be a good learning experience for me or something equally condescending. Race day arrived with perfect weather, cool morning air, clear skies, the kind of day that makes you feel like you could run forever. I got to the starting line at dawn, wearing my race bib and feeling more nervous than I'd ever felt about anything. My family thought I was sleeping in that morning. They planned to head downtown around mile 20 to catch some of the action and grab brunch afterward. The gun went off, and 15,000 runners started moving through the city streets. For the first few miles, I felt like I was floating. All that secret training, all that anger and determination, it was like rocket fuel in my legs. Update. Race day is here, and I'm about to either have the greatest moment of my life or completely crash and burn. My family has no idea what's coming. Win or lose, there's no going back after today. By mile 10, I was ahead of my goal pace and feeling strong. The crowds were incredible. Music pumping, people cheering for complete strangers. This was everything I dreamed it would be, and more. Mile 15 brought the usual wall that every runner talks about, but I pushed through it thinking about that contract, about every dismissive comment, about every time they'd made me feel small. My legs were screaming, but my heart was on fire. At mile 20, I saw them. My parents and sister were standing near the water station, holding signs for random runners, looking like they were having a great time playing spectator to other people's dreams. I was in the lead pack of women, running stronger than I'd ever run in my life. As I approached their section, I could see the exact moment they recognized me. My mother's face went from casual interest to absolute shock to something that looked like panic. My father started pushing through the crowd, probably trying to reach the course, but the barriers and race officials kept him back. My sister just stood there with her mouth open, holding a sign that said, "Go random runner." I gave them a little wave and kept running. The last 6.2 miles were pure adrenaline. Every step was fueled by the look on their faces, by the knowledge that I was about to finish something they'd tried to stop me from even starting. When I crossed that finish line, I didn't just finish the marathon, I won the whole dang thing. First place, female overall winner, time 2:47:32. The medal ceremony was scheduled for an hour after the race. I'd had this moment planned for weeks, and I wasn't about to let exhaustion ruin it. When they called my name as the winner, I stepped up to the podium with more than just my medal. I had my phone connected to the event sound system. The race director was a friend of Sarah's and had agreed to let me make a quick speech. Before I thank everyone who supported me, I began, looking directly at my family in the crowd. I want to share something with all of you. I pulled up the photo of the contract on my phone, and it appeared on the big screen behind me. 2 months ago, my parents paid my coach $3,000 to convince me not to run this race. They thought I wasn't capable of making my own decisions about my body, my goals, or my life. The crowd went dead silent. I could see my parents trying to push toward the exit, but the packed crowd made it impossible to move quickly. This contract called me a subject with concerning obsessions. It treated my dreams like a problem that needed to be solved behind my back. I played the audio recording of Mike's confession, his voice echoing through the speakers as he detailed the whole scheme. The crowd's reaction was everything I'd hoped for and more. Boos, gasps, people turning to stare at my family. Some runners who'd recognized the story started chanting my name. I want everyone here to know that I didn't just run this race despite their sabotage. I won it because of it. Every person who's ever been told they're not capable, not ready, not enough, this victory is for you too. The applause was deafening. When I looked back at where my family had been standing, they were gone. After the ceremony, my phone exploded with messages. My parents, Mike, even some relatives I barely knew. All of them wanting to explain, to apologize, to make excuses. My mother's text was particularly something, "Sweetheart, we only wanted to protect you. We never meant to hurt you. Can we please talk about this privately?" My father tried the guilt route. "We're your family. Families make mistakes, but we love you. Don't throw away our relationship over this misunderstanding." Mike sent about 15 messages, ranging from defensive to panicked to desperate. "You took that conversation out of context. I was only trying to help. Please don't ruin my reputation over this." I blocked all of them. Within a week, the story had gone viral. Someone had recorded my speech and posted it online, and suddenly I was getting interview requests and messages from people sharing their own stories of family sabotage and control. Mike's gym started losing clients. Turns out, people don't love coaches who can be bought off by overprotective parents. Several online reviews mentioned the scandal, and his business tanked pretty quickly. My parents faced their own consequences. Our extended family took sides, and most of them weren't on Team Sabotage. My grandmother called my mother to express her disappointment, which apparently hit harder than any public embarrassment could have. My sister tried to play neutral, but even she couldn't defend what they'd done. She sent me one text. What they did was wrong, but did you have to humiliate them publicly? I didn't respond. If she couldn't understand why public betrayal deserved public consequences, we didn't have much to talk about. 6 months later, I'm training for my next marathon with a proper support system. Sarah introduced me to a running group full of people who celebrate each other's goals instead of undermining them. I've started a blog about running and family dynamics that's gained a pretty decent following. The best part? Several people have reached out to share how my story helped them stand up to controlling family members or manipulative situations in their own lives. One woman left an abusive relationship after seeing how I handled my family's betrayal. A guy confronted his parents about their attempts to control his career choices. My parents still try to reach out occasionally. Birthdays, holidays, the usual guilt-inducing occasions. But I've built a life that doesn't include people who think they know what's best for me better than I do. That marathon medal hangs in my living room, right next to a framed photo of the contract that started it all. It reminds me every day that the biggest victories come not from proving other people wrong, but from proving to yourself that you're capable of more than anyone else believes. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born with. And sometimes winning isn't just about crossing the finish line first, it's about crossing it on your own terms, regardless of who tries to stop you. I'm registered for 3 more marathons this year. My PR stands at 2:45:18, and I'm just getting started. Turns out, when you're running towards something instead of away from it, you can go a lot further than anyone expects, including yourself.